You're listening to Talking Law, the podcast where business owners just like you discover how to avoid legal landmines and build value using smart legal tips.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here and welcome back to Talking Law, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we have something a bit different for you, and this is an episode just for our accountants, all about the Accountants Advisory Community, which is a joint initiative of Aspect Legal, National Australia Bank, and HLB Mann, Judd. And here today to talk all about the community, what it's about, and the resources and opportunities that are available for accountants through this community is Todd Gamble, the service line partner at HLB Advisory at HLB Mann Judd, and Tony Dickens, who heads up the marketing of professional partnerships at HLB Mann Judd, Ashika Chand, who is the managing partner of the New South Wales Professional Services Division of National Australia Bank, and yours truly, Joanna Oakey, the Managing Director of Aspect Legal. So perhaps it might be useful as well if I start off by giving a quick overview of who each of these organisations are, just in case you don't know exactly who each of us is. So HLB Mann Judd is a client service award-winning chartered accounting and advisory firm. National Australia Bank, if you haven't heard of them, is one of Australia's largest business banks. And their vision in the professional services team is to be the preeminent bank for accountants, legal professionals, financial planners and real estate agents. And of course, Aspect Legal, who is a commercial legal practice that specialises in providing smart legal advice in the SME and corporate market and in supporting its loyal band of accounting partners and referrers. And so in this episode, Todd, Tony, Ashika and I talk through what the Accountant Advisory Community is and what resources and value-add opportunities we're providing to accountants. And we talk a little bit about the background behind how the community came to be and some exciting events that we have planned for the future for you as accountants. So if you're an accountant, this episode's for you. Well, Ashika, Tony and Todd, welcome on to Talking Law. I'm really excited about this podcast today.
So are we.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, great. All right. Well, look, to kick this off, then, Tony, maybe how about you give us a quick overview of what the accounting advisory community is all about?
Thanks, Joanna. I was brought in last year to manage the HLB community of metropolitan accountants. And as part of the strategy behind that, I saw an opportunity to partner with NAB's professional services team and yourselves at Aspect Legal to leverage each of our capabilities and networks. That essentially was the foundational idea behind the Accounting Advisors Community Network, Joanna.
Fabulous. I'm really excited today to be able to communicate some of the concepts that we've been talking about for a while. I think what unites each of our organisations here is that we're looking to find ways to add value to accounting practices, but we're also looking at ways that we can do that in a bit of a different way. So maybe if we kick it off, perhaps, Todd, you could talk a little bit about, from the HLB perspective, what the community means from your perspective, and I guess some of the origins of how you had started working with the HLB accountants community, which really has been an origin of where this combined community has come from.
No worries. Thanks, Joanna. Basically, this came out, it was a sort of formalisation of what we've done historically and moved into a more of a structure to be able to go out to accountants to help them with issues that they had, that they needed assistance with, and we had capability to assist with without the issues that a few of them had, which was around people stealing their clients. And so rather than actually having an approach to try and get the entire relationship, our view was to help them as the trusted advisor for these clients add value to their practice by delivering things that they either couldn't do or could improve the delivery of those services because we did them on a day-to-day basis. So filling the gaps in their capability in their practices, which enabled them to be able to go to market knowing that they had somebody to help them with those areas, so they could land clients and retain clients rather than having to hand them off because they could fully service. We've had a number of interesting conversations around that. We've been able, a couple of the best examples is being able to help one client save about $3 million on a transaction because we were able to look at it slightly differently in terms of a tax perspective, because we have guys who do things like that on a day-to-day basis, whereas his local accountant was looking at it on a fairly straightforward, straight line basis. So they're the types of things, particularly around transactions, is where we can really add some value and some leverage for them, because our view is that to keep that trusted advisor relationship, you often need to bring somebody in for that transaction who can actually have a different type of conversation. Because as you know, there is often a gap between expectation and reality in transactions. Sometimes somebody needs to build an understanding of that, whether it be by helping with a valuation or going through a due diligence process. What we find is that in a lot of those things, our community members actually generate more work because they're the ones who we actually get to do all of the work to produce the due diligence information rather than us. So we become a little bit of a conduit for them to actually structure a conversation with their client to get further engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. So from the HLB side, it's really about giving them more, I guess, tools in their tool chest, more ways that they can service their own client base so that they're not as vulnerable to losing their clients as their clients engage in perhaps more complex transactions or as their clients grow, and they may not be able to fully service the whole requirement and financial function for those clients. Is that right?
Yeah, and we want to have a real relationship with them. We don't want to have a stop-start. We want to have an ongoing relationship, which means we are willing to build a long-term relationship and trust. We understand that trust is a key issue here, and that's not overnight. So we are willing to show them our capabilities and help them with things and have those discussions to help them understand that we know what we're doing and that we can actually fold into their team when they need to.
Yeah.
And we've had some of their guys, their principals send some of their children and some of their new recruits across to us to come and do a couple of months' worth of work experience and things like that, just to help them along. And they get access to some of our training and a lot of our presentations. So, and they also have to come and talk to us at certain things around functions and whatever else, so that they get real access to our partners in particular, which the feedback we have is unusual for them. They find that more difficult in some of the other networks. But one of the things that we try to do differently is give access to the partners so you can get a real response on an issue.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I really like that you brought up the concept of long-term relationships and trust, because I think when we've had discussions before between HLB, Aspect Legal and NAB, that this has been one of the areas that we've really focused on. We're all focused on providing the basis of long-term relationships and for trust that accountants can pass on to their clients. So I think that's really an important element to highlight. So then, Ashika, going across to you, perhaps you can talk about National Australia Bank's approach to the accountants advisory community and where you guys sit in this process.
Yeah, I might just talk firstly about what the professional services team is. So we look after accountants, legal firms, financial planners and real estate agents. And the whole premise behind the team is providing a deep specialisation and understanding of these clients and that real value add and exceptional service. And this is one part of what we want to do for our accounting clients. So we've been working with HLB on a number of key strategic initiatives, and we felt it was the right thing to do for our clients to bring this community together and provide another value add for them, you know, particularly clients who don't have that full array of accounting services for their clients. So where do they go? So HLB is a fantastic firm for us to be referring them to and providing that exceptional service that we're committed to doing for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, wonderful. And I guess from the legal perspective, it's probably useful for me to also explain to our listeners the way that we work with our community of accountants and the way indeed that we are working in this combined advisory community for accountants. We have a free legal helpline that we provide to community accountant members for them to use both for their own practice, but also at times when they really need someone to speak to in relation to something that might be happening with their clients and they need a bit of a sounding board. We also provide free legal update, discounted legal work for the accountants themselves. And I guess as part of the whole approach of this community, we're all about providing up-to-date current information that's relevant to accountants and to their clients. So things that they should be on top of and things that their clients should be on top of in order for them to have, I guess, a broader breadth of understanding and commercial consideration that they can bring to that relationship with their clients. So perhaps maybe if we can talk a little bit about what we see moving into the future of ways that this community approach and our three organisations combined together within this community can provide information resources for the future. I think we've been talking together about a number of events that we'll be holding into the future. So perhaps maybe we could foreshadow some of those events that we're about to hold. So Todd, I just want to wrap back to you for a moment and drill a little bit into more your example that you provided in relation to the $3 million in tax savings that you're able to help find. I think this is a really great example of how this community can work, because we do a lot of work in the M&A space, and we find quite often there might be accountants who are sitting on the side of our clients or on the side of the other side, whichever side we're acting on, who perhaps haven't had a large level exposure to larger M&A transactions and may not realise how much money might be sitting on the table in terms of opportunities if certain things are looked at in the transaction from a financial perspective. So I think this is a really good example of where this community can step in and help add real tangible value at the end of the day, not just to our accountants' clients, but also to the accountant themselves. So perhaps could you walk us through, just give us a bit of an example how that worked, and how is it, can accountants just give you a call and say, here, I've got this issue, I think maybe there's an opportunity here, but I don't know what it is. Maybe if you can walk us through that, I think that'd be helpful for people to understand.
So that's tax saving related to a transaction. It's been set up. Probably it was one of those longer-winded transactions which involved some capital gains tax exposure. There was some planning done, but it was probably fairly rudimentary on the basis that it was the largest transaction that both the business owner and probably the accountant had been through in recent memory. And it was a fairly sophisticated transaction because it was going through with a multinational buying the business owner's business and rolling it up. So there was certain flexibility in there. The local accountant came to us and said, look, can you guys just go through this and have a review and give us an idea? I think there's some opportunity here, but I don't deal with this every day. This is not what I do. I just need somebody to make sure that and they all have that sort of trusted advisor. They want to make sure they're doing the right thing by their client, and they know when they a lot of the time they know they can't quite get there. And that was the case here. So he referred it to through the community. We went to one of our tax experts who's a bit of a tax savant. He lives and breathes it, and we generally keep them locked up. We don't really want them exposed too much to the world. But he's very good with these type of transactions. He looked at it, tweaked it and pulled it and said, well, this is the structure and this is how it could work. And that meant that the estimate of the capital gains tax was materially reduced by being able to actually look at the structure and what had happened previously and documenting through that. And that piece of advice, I think, cost less than $15,000. And the feedback from the member accountant who charged, I think, double that in terms of his own fee, because he was doing a lot of the legwork around that, was that he'd never had a bill paid faster.
Oh, look, and it's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's a true win-win-win. The client at the end of the day is obviously getting massive value out of getting that specialist advice. And I think part of the problem, part of the issue that I see is that accountants perhaps sitting in that trusted advisor seat feel like they need to always have the answer. They're the ones who are meant to have the answer. But I just love that you say, so you referred it to your tax specialist who just sits there and all day, every day, this is what they work on. I just think it's important to understand there's many of these areas where there might be further value that can help be dug out by people who are specialists in working in that area. And certainly, I think that really encapsulates well the real power of this as a community for accountants from a legal perspective, from a specialist financial accounting perspective, from a banking perspective, in terms of opening the doors for accountants who may not have this skill set, at their fingertips otherwise.
Yeah, and we see it around these guys being time poor, and they don't have the time to be able to build the expertise across a lot of these issues. And they really appreciate having that bailout call to be able to talk to an expert, the same with you guys, I'm sure, in the legal aspects, and I'm sure with the bank to say, well, is there a better way? To be able to say, is there a better way? I'm thinking about this. These are intelligent people, and they all want to know if there's a better way, but they don't necessarily have 2 days to go and do research to be able to find it, because they have live businesses a lot of the time that they carry on their back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess from a legal perspective, we see again and again and again, people turn to their accountants as their trusted advisor with all sorts of issues, whether it's legal issues or banking, finance related issues. And I just think the power of them having people that they can turn to call, to run things past, really, gives them that extra arrow in their bow set. So Ashika, also perhaps maybe you could walk us through in just a little bit of detail, give us some ideas of how you work with accountants within this community in relation to their relationship with their own client.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. So in addition to providing real insight and expertise to our accountants, what we really want to be is, or able to do, is bring the best of NAB to their clients. So if their clients are looking for funding or any sort of banking relationship, we've got a fantastic team of bankers who can facilitate this relationship back into the bank and make sure it gets to the right banker and seen by the right banker. And we're really committed to ensuring it gets to the right person. And that's a commitment by NAB as part of this advisory network.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think I can really see how that works well in terms of all of our different disciplines together, really just providing that single point of value add and resource for these accountants, not just in their own practices, but also in their relationships with their clients, to allow them to really sit in that seat of that full trusted advisor.
That's exactly it. I mean, some of the comments we generally get is, I send a referral into NAB and I don't know where it goes and I don't know who it goes to. So as a professional services team, we're really committed to ensuring we do provide that right point of contact, that transactions and referrals do get seen, and it's a seamless, easy relationship and way into the bank.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So then maybe it might be useful for us to talk a little bit about the way that we see this accountant community evolving into the future, and the sorts of things that we're looking at providing, because I think part of the discussion that all of us have had in the past is that we are partly driven by what our accountants within the community are looking for, what sort of support they need. And so we've got a lot of ideas, but I guess this is a call out to you, the accountants who are listening in, to let us know where it is that we can support you. What is it that you are after? Where's the information and resource gap that we can help you fill? And perhaps, from an event perspective, depending on when you're listening this, you might be listening to this either before or after our launch of the Accounting Advisory Community Fabulous Wine and Cheese Tasting event. But if you've missed the event, no worries. We will have more in store for you in the future. Throwing it out to the team here, guys, what are the sorts of things, I guess, that we can foreshadow that might be in the future as part of the event lineup for the future?
There's always technical updates around key issues, and from our feedback, key issues are around succession and preparation and all of those issues. Then we can also give some things around key issues around restructuring, how that all fits together, and not treating it like a dirty word, but treating it like a real part of your business. And then looking at structuring of asset protection, which a lot of accountants don't think about a lot of the time, particularly when they get their debt obligations and don't think about how that mixes together. And then there's always, for some reason, accountants always like talking about tax.
So we'll meet you where you are. We'll talk tax. Is that what we're saying, Todd?
Yeah, and Peter Bembrick, he is one of the leaders of this initiative for us, and he can talk tax underwater. He's passionate about that. I'm not jealous of that. I could not do that. That is why we have different angles that we go here. And the other big thing I see for this is also then the next phase of technology that these guys are going to be faced, which is where they've already done. Outsourcing is generally being utilised more in these smaller accountants than what we are seeing than in the larger accountants. They use it because they have to, because they can't access people as well as we can, and they can't access leverage as well as we can. So they've been sort of driving that a bit ahead. But automation is going to catch up to that very quickly, and that's going to be another transition they're going to have to go through.
So I guess what we're forecasting, is a number of events into the future. Looking at some of these particular areas, I think we've also had discussions together about looking at industry trends. I know Ashika NAB does a lot of work on looking at industry trends. So I think part of the plan is we'll bring some of that information to the community into the future.
That's exactly it. And I think for us, and we spoke extensively about this, is we want this to be a bit different. We want this to be not the same old functions and events you go to. We really want to mix it up. And if there is an industry that's going through significant disruption, it is the accounting industry. And Todd hit the nail on the head, that technology advancements are coming through. And it's how are you keeping up with that? What are you doing? From a NAB perspective, we've got a fantastic team who's dedicated to supporting the industry. We've done a lot of work in gaining insights into what accountants want and what their clients want for them. So we'd love to share our survey results with our members, but also bring some edgy speakers and panel events as well that can keep them, as you say, ahead of the game, really, and really take them into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess really at the end of the day, though, it's down to you, our listeners and our community members to let us know what it is that we can do to support you. What resources can we provide to you? What information is it that you would really like to help you keep ahead of the trends and to keep value adding in your own accounting practices? Well, look, guys, I guess this is probably it for this episode. It's probably the first of many that we'll be sending out to you as a community. I hope you found this overview useful and informative. Any parting messages from any of you?
Look forward to meeting everybody in person.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to coming together and doing something really exciting.
Yeah. And look, I've not heard of anything else like this available for accountants as a resource. I think our combined message to you all is that this is a really useful resource that can be used any way that you think can really help to add value to your practice. We're really looking forward to seeing you as part of the community. And if you aren't yet part of the community but really want to get involved, then all you need to do is head to the show notes for this podcast and we'll have a link straight through to you so you can get involved. All right. So, and maybe before we round this all out, let's just perhaps give a bit of a summary of what the community is and those real benefits we're providing. Tony, what's your thoughts?
Well, really, the benefit of being part of the HLB community, and we've come quite a long way in the last 18 months, is that there is no fee for being part of the community. It's free. In that respect, it's a bit of a no-brainer. You get access to networking events. You can use our facilities in town if you want to have meetings. You get subject matter articles emailed to you. You get discounted fees from the partners if there's any work to be done for their clients. And the other thing too is we often get referrals in that just don't fit with our business model. They're a little bit too small. Well, that's a great opportunity for us to push them out to one of our HLB community members. Not only are we taking referrals in, but we're also giving them out. So that, in essence, is the benefit of being part of the community. And as part of the community, you get to meet lots of other people within the professional network, the accounting network from time to time, and you can share war stories and experiences and ideas. So all in all, really, and you've got a dedicated person looking after community HLB and myself, and the partners are all buying into this. So we are really, as an organisation, very committed to this whole concept of a community of metropolitan accounting firms.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. And I just want to reiterate, because I think it's a really good point you make, this community that we've put together for you as the accountants is free. Everything that we're talking about today is absolutely free. So I think that's an important point. All right. Well, I just want to say a really big thank you to you, Ashika at NAB, and to Todd and Tony from HLB Mann, Judd. Thank you for coming along to speak today.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that's it for this episode of Talking Law, all about the Accountants Advisory Community, which is a joint initiative between HLB Mann Judd, National Australia Bank and Aspect Legal. We really hope to see you along at one of our free events into the future, so if you aren't already part of the community and want to join in, or would just like some information about what it is or how to get involved, just check out the show notes. And once again, thanks for listening in to Talking Law.
Thanks for listening to Talking Law. Tune in next time for more smart legal tips and tricks to keep you clear of those legal landmines. If you want to get a download of today's show notes, head over to talkinglaw.com.au.
Are you looking for a top quality legal team to assist you in your organisation? Aspect Legal is an innovative commercial legal practice that specialises in providing fast and professional services for their clients. If you'd like to chat about how we might be able to assist you, simply head over to our website at aspectlegal.com.au to book in a time for a free discussion with one of our lawyers.